Hey guys, it's Jessica Fury, host of Dumb Girl Podcast. Tune in every Monday for new episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Welcome to Dumb Girl Podcast. We're back. We're going to do a special episode today. You guys know this is a podcast that we talk all things wellness, business, and relationships. And today we have Natalie Stavola. She is an actress. She is a dating and relationship coach. She has been awarded as a Best Actress for Love and Hostages, which is on Amazon Prime. And she also was awarded for Best Supporting Actress at the Crystal Reel Awards. Natalie, welcome to Dumb Girl Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Finally.
Finally, it's been a couple years.
It's been a couple years, but it's so funny. We know someone mutually, and it was just one of those things that sometimes you just reach out to a person and you just kind of like let it go.
Yes. I'm so about that. It's that flow. Sometimes I've noticed, actually, this is one of the harder lessons in life that I've noticed is when I'm trying to control things or make things happen on my time, I might not be ready yet. I might not have anything right to say or something I might be going through or whatever it is, or I can wind up making things worse if I'm an ego or I'm just trying to do it my way. So I've gotten that lesson a few times, and then I don't know what it was. You and I were talking, we were conversing. I was so interested in coming on. We talked a couple times. We were trying to get connected, and then I don't know what happened, but Instagram algorithm, I didn't get to see your post for a while.
Yeah, it's always like that.
Yeah.
It's always going to be like that. And it's funny because lately I've actually turned, and I'm grateful that they don't let you know this, but some people I've turned their stuff off.
Yeah, yes.
Because
I've done the same.
Because I come from like an angle of like a business and a brand. So I'm always mindful, and sometimes it's just too much.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm just going to turn this off.
Yeah.
I just need to like just turn this off.
Protect your peace.
Yeah, protect my peace. I know that. But I really want to go back because we have something in common. And you could speak however much you want about it. I did have a younger brother who passed from an opioid addiction. So I'm very familiar.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm the most knowledgeable person, but I do have a lot of awareness for the addiction and recovery world.
Oh yeah.
But I want to come from your experience, and then we'll tie into how it's generated many different good relationships to evolve into your life and to create this space that now you are creating for others now.
It is a huge part of my life, even from the past. So I'm May 18th is my sobriety date, 2017. So I'm coming up on 6 years clean and sober. And it's the craziest thing because when you're in active addiction, you don't even realize you're doing it. You have no idea. You're the last one to figure it out, which is crazy because I also had family members too that were alcoholics or some that were addicts, but the ones closest to me were alcohol. And you're like, I would never do that. That's terrible, the damage that they cause. When you're in it, you don't even realize how painful and how much pain you cause others, even if you're disappearing and abandoning them. That's something that I had to face when I got sober, was the amount of people, of loved ones that I abandoned, and to be able to understand and take a different perspective on the effects that it has on other people. But also I will say too, and also I cherish the fact that in a good way, hopefully not in an ego way, but I love the fact that I'm an addict and an alcoholic today. I love that. The way our brains work, it's very similar to artistry too. Like a lot of artists will relate as well. The way that the mind works a little bit differently, a little bit of a quirk to it. And it's that like I get to have purpose, and different programs also help with that too, taking you through getting to apologize to people. It's helped me be able to find my voice again when I lost it in active addiction, be able to write poetry again, become a coach, get back into acting. I lost all of that because of active addiction, because I was so searching for something, anything outside of myself to make myself feel better. My skin was crawling every day. I couldn't breathe. I would have to use something every day. And I wasn't an everyday user. I wasn't an everyday drinker, but I was an everyday user. I would use people or power or drugs or alcohol or whatever, because I was just trying to get the noise in my head, the voices in my head, to just be quiet. I just wanted to be able to sit still without wanting to run out of my skin. And in finally hitting that bottom and doing that internal work, all of those things that I was running from or trying to find, like finally found, and they're all within us. So yeah, I still love hearing from other people too on like that perspective on what it's like to even kind of deal with us too.
I mean, there's two. I mean, I think it's an ongoing. I think it's ongoing, but I think it has to begin with yourself. Because if you're not giving it to yourself, there's no way you can do it for another person.
Facts.
I mean, yes, I as a woman am always showing up for my partner.
Right.
I'm always. I want to make sure that I'm always giving, but what I'm learning from being with someone who is in recovery, that there's a different way to give, because you have to make it a priority to understand the other person, because we understand ourselves so much that most of the time we're focused on everything within ourselves, and it's not a bad thing, but a lot of times it could be a lot.
Yes.
Not saying that you're completely selfish or self-centered or whatever those things are, because in a way you have to feed your needs. You have to find those parts of you. But when it comes to love and turning towards others, even with intimate relationships, it's like you have to learn about the other person. You have to make a priority to understand the other person to really grow in that love. But I do want to ask, because a lot of times actors and actresses, they are performers. And a part of being a performer, aside from having a talent as an actor, is that your beauty, yourself, is a representation in the physical towards others. So has your addiction tied in with any form of like vanity or ego, in a way that it's like it's all about me? And can you speak about that and the time that it was, and maybe some of the tools that you had to like really face, and the things that you started to apply?
I love this question. Okay, so I love this too, because there's also shadow involved in this, and like a yin and yang. Like you've got like kind of good and bad. I don't like saying good and bad, but shadow and light on both sides of this. So vanity, when I'm in active addiction, when I was, hopefully I never relapse again. That would be lovely. It's just one day at a time though. But the vanity that I had when I was searching for outside things, it was power. It was, I wanted to be seen as beautiful. I wanted to be seen as pretty, because inside I didn't. I felt so ugly. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I was surrounded by beautiful women. People's perception of me was different than my perception of me. What other people might have seen was not what I saw when I looked in the mirror. And because I hated myself so much, I was destroying myself too. So I was like I thought that if I got more power, that if I tried to make myself prettier, if I over sexualized myself, anything, if I just did anything, maybe then it would make me feel better. And I would start to accumulate those things. I won Best Actress for that before I got sober. And when I did that, I was surrounded by some of the best in Hollywood. I had an amazing mentor. My career was starting to take off, and I was miserable on the inside. Miserable. And what's interesting now is when I got sober and I started utilizing the tools, which a lot of it is like, okay, I'm lacking control. I'm lacking power. I can't do this anymore. I need to just kind of give up right now. And giving up doesn't mean stopping what you're doing or not actually doing things. It means stop fighting the bad fights. I look at it this way. Addiction and active addiction is like getting in the ring with Mike Tyson. You know that this person back in the day, not now. He seems like he's done a lot of work. But like back in the day, when he like bit off the ear. That's how I would look at addiction, is I'm getting in the wrong ring. So I need to surrender and put down the gloves and stop going into that ring. I can still fight, but the fight is different. Now I'm going to pick up gloves, but the gloves are going to be like writing, journaling, meditation, connecting to myself, connecting to my own higher power of my understanding, healing my wounds. And I will say too, when I gave up drugs and alcohol, the vanity does keep me sober too. I won't even lie about that one. I gave up drugs and alcohol, and it's like, I started aging backwards. My skin started looking better. I started feeling better. It started coming out of my eyes. My skin started glowing more. And you can see it with people. You can tell when someone is going through something and like they might relapse, or if they're in active addiction, you can see it. Their skin is gray, especially when you've been through it and you've been around it too. You can kind of tell. And hopefully with enough care and enough self-care, we don't dive into other people's dumpster fires anymore. We stay in the light. And it's like, hey, you want what I have, you do what I do. I've been there, I get it. I'm not going to go to your dumpster fire anymore and burn for you, but I'll be up here.
Yeah.
So it's like, here are the tools, let's do it.
I mean, my experience is very different because and this episode is not about me, but when my brother passed, there's a very dark space that has never been filled.
Yeah.
And I probably will never have those answers. And I've made peace around that.
Yeah.
I've made peace around that just because I've had to. I've done that work. I continue to do that work for myself. But then meeting someone who's sober, when I was asked those questions, I didn't have those answers. So like, I never understood that the person was so in their addiction. I only got the call.
Yeah.
I only got the call. And the call was, it's just, you can't explain it unless you've been in that place.
Yeah.
And then the person that I was with, they were already sober for X amount of years, like for 70 years. Now it's like 11 years. So it's like, I don't really have the beginning part. I don't have I just have the experience of others, and I just gravitate towards one, how can I be in service to others? Like that is my MO with everything, my business, my success, like what I want to create as a person in business, as a person who's creating something on a platform with a podcast is like, how can I just like give this to others? Like somebody's going through something. So what can I do today that this person can actually just feel better?
Yeah.
Just like, it gets them away from this stuff that they're going through. That's why
it helps us too.
Yeah, it does help.
When you're helping and being of service to someone, it can absolutely get you out of your own things too.
Yes and no. I think sometimes that when I turn to others, it gets me out of myself and something comes in from me.
Yes. Yeah.
Something, and
I think there's a balance though too.
For me, it is God.
Yeah.
But that's
same.
My universe. But I want to know, when did it shift for you that you were like, I want to work with others and become a coach in relationships? And I'm asking this because there is this little, it's not a cliche, but it's almost like, oh, people want to get into real estate because they think like all of a sudden I'm going to get a license and then I'm going to close 50 million. Boom.
Right.
I'm top agent.
Sure.
Where it's like, no, sit down for a second. Let's do the work.
We're going to do the step by step.
Yeah. So it's like, was there something inside of you that you were like, no, I have a talent in this.
Yeah.
I have a gift or something that you saw that you wanted to connect and then take that next step for yourself.
Yeah. So I think what it is, and I think it's also kind of piggybacking off of what you mentioned, what I thought was really, I love the way that you phrased it too and talked about it. There are certain things in life that we might not ever have answers to, and there's a void, there's a hole. Those are okay. Like for me, a lot of the things I've gone through and just in life in general and other people that I've coached, people that I've been around, there are things that we go through where there's not going to be a fill for that. There's not supposed to be. It's okay if there, or maybe there is sometimes, but it's okay when there are things that like, I'm not okay with this, but I'm healing through it. For me, there's a book called The Mountain Is You that I recently read that kind of put things in a different perspective. I'd already had this perspective, but I like the way that they phrased it too in there. We find through our pain and through our triggers, our purpose as well. Through our limiting beliefs is also part of our purpose. What we've gone through, some of us have had to go through more than others. Some people in different communities, different skin codes, different genders, skin tones, you're going to go through more than other people. And some of it's just not okay. And so it's not about like, oh, all of this is just happening for you. No, some of it's just rough. However, it can help color what you do about it. You can learn how to overcome it. You can, whenever we go through something, there's like a unique set of skills that we get. Like Liam Neeson, I tell my clients. For instance, for one of mine and what I get to teach my clients and I pull in a lot is people who've gone through narcissistic abuse. I've gone through that one. Psychopathic abuse, sociopathic abuse, narcissistic abuse. I've had an ex put a gun to my head. I've had like all kinds of like, fun, crazy stories. And I was the girl that got back to him because I was like, oh, it must be my fault. So these are the things that,
not to interrupt you. It's I don't think that it's like, yes, it's my fault, but this is just the point blank. one, people are like, the sex is good. Two, people are like, I feel so comfortable around this person that there's something, and I just feel comfortable around this person. Familiar, yes, that's a good word.
I would say not comfortable. Usually they're experiencing a lot of anxiety, but it's something that is very similar from the childhood.
Yeah.
So there's a familiarity about it. Also, like, I had it programmed in my brain, a limiting belief that anything bad that happened was my fault. It's just a perception I had, because oftentimes people will look, and I'm sure you've gotten this, like, when we present a certain way and like we're tough women, but we've had to be tough for a reason. So a lot of people would never expect some of the things that I'm sure like we've gone through, that you've gone through. Definitely for me, I've experienced that, where they're like, no way. And I'm like, oh yeah. And, but because of those things, yeah, like I totally get it. I know what it's like to be thick skin, tough, it's Irish, Italian woman, take no shit, like do whatever, but then also be that girl that's in this crazy abusive relationship where people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. Why am I here? And it's trauma. But those are the things that childhood was crazy. Love my family, but they'll admit it too. And there was a lot of pain and chaos. I saw a lot of things. I experienced a lot of things in life at a young age, that a lot of people may have, and some people should never have to go through. And I wound up deciding to go into psychology, which was so against my family. I always wanted to be an actor, but that was not allowed in my family. That was like a no-no. So it was like hiding. I had to hide that. So I went in and I went to psychology because I really was fascinated by human behavior. And at first I was studying criminology and psychology because I was just fascinated by some of the crazier ones. I loved abnormal psych. I was like, ooh, I was thinking about like forensic psychology. So I wound up with communications and psychology, PR, kind of studying the effects of like media, sexuality, or objectification, things like that, and criminals. And that was in the background. But then when I got out of college, it was, I really tried to pursue my passions. However, I was always helping people. I was helping people, though, at the detriment to myself. I was helping people, but also using it to escape myself, which is really important because we can do that. I have a tendency to like, oh, I'm such a helper. But really, I'm running from my problems, because if I'm involved in your chaos, I don't got to think about mine.
Yeah.
And I noticed that one in sobriety, I did that.
Yeah.
So a couple years into sobriety, like 2, I was healing. I had to do a lot of work on myself. I was starting to sponsor women. I was helping others. I was giving back. So I was already kind of doing it. And at this point I was like, oh, I should do this. And then I was trying to be in my own will, because I didn't want to go back to doing like a waitressing job, because I was a little ashamed and embarrassed. I had to work on some shame and embarrassment of like being in the waitressing, being a waitress or a hostess, and being an actor. And feeling like, there was a lot of judgment on both. But my higher power has, jokes and has lessons for me. So I wound up, while I was needing to heal, I got what's called a get well job, and I wound up hosting at Connie and Ted's, and I loved it. They felt like family. It's a northeastern area, and I felt like grounded, because what I didn't know is when drugs and alcohol got taken away, I'm an alcoholic. It's not the drugs and alcohol, it's me. I had to face all the things I was running from. And, I was not a vision for you, as they call it. I was withdrawing. I was scared. I yelled at a bunch of people by accident. I was just not, I had a lot of trauma, and I, was like a very frazzled type of person. And it wasn't like oh, cute, she's like poor little thing. It was more like, she's scary, like stay away from her. And, but I needed to heal. I needed to get grounded. And then I kept trying to do these odd jobs because I was just financially insecure and in fear. So I started watching this. When I'm in fear and I react in fear, I create and cultivate more fear. I can walk towards more people that will give me exactly what my fears are. Fear of safety, fear of not being good enough, fear of it's my fault. That'll have me walking into a narcissist real quick. Even coworkers or bosses or environments, whatever it is. So I kept kind of like creating more chaos in my life sober. And finally I was like, okay, I surrender. That's it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know where I'm supposed to be, but you got it, because I seem to keep making mistakes here. I seem to keep trying to figure it out. I'm like, I got it. I got this. But I didn't know I was running on fear and the past programming of my childhood. That it's my fault. I'm not good enough. No one's ever going to love me. It's one step forward, two steps back. And finally I just gave up and I was like, all right, God, my body's hurting. I can't work in this industry anymore. I don't know where I'm supposed to be. I want to continue acting. If I go back to get my master's, because I was considering becoming a therapist, I was like, I think I'll lose my acting. And if I lose my acting, I know my soul's not going to be happy. I could feel that. I'd already done the work on that and tried to not act. And I was like, ooh, not happy. So finally I got a phone call from a friend of mine and she was like, hey, we have a mutual friend of ours and she's hiring to be a dating coach for men. Are you interested? And I was like, huh. And I got on the phone with her and I felt it like, whoom, like go through me. And I was like, this is it. And then after that, I started getting certified and NLP, certified life coach, dating coach, continued my work and then called in my own healers, therapists, coaches. I work with like a team of people now. I've got three coaches and a therapist that I work with. And
you started this during the time that we connected, like 2019, 2020?
2019.
I started in 2019. You started. And then when we were talking the other day, you were like, I was just going through so much. What was the, like I am, and I have to also speak presently, I made a career change.
Yeah.
And it's been the most challenging, emotional, happy thing.
Yeah.
But challenging and happy at the same time. But I run towards my new thing. I run, I sprint, but I also have to remember that I'm not sprinting. I'm creating a long-term business, a marathon. But there's a time that it's really like heavy and emotional. Mm-hmm. But when you shared that the other day with me, can you speak about that and what it's transcended into now?
Oof. Okay. Shoot. I don't think I ever talked about this one on air. So 2019 was a big shift for me. One, I started to become a coach, which was cool because all the things that I'd already learned and the things that I was, already experiencing and giving back, I was able to kind of do that on a bigger scale, which I got to see more of my worth and kind of walk with that a little more. I had a tendency to shrink around people, so it was teaching me to kind of like stand up and see like, wait a minute, I don't need to shrink anymore, or like cower around other people in order to make them feel more comfortable. Like I do have an ability to help others. Like it does other people no service to me to dim my light. One of my favorite poems is Marianne Williamson, our deepest fear, or is it greatest fear or deepest fear? Our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are. Anyway, it's also in Coach Carter. Love that. And that helped.
You know it?
Oh, what's that? Yeah. Beyond all measure, it is our light, not our darkness, that most intimidates others. Yeah. We ask ourselves, who am I to be powerful, beautiful, brilliant? Who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and you playing small does not serve the world. Yeah.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah,
pretty.
You're a light. And so what it helped me do is it helped me see that as I shine, which is helping me in my acting career, it's helping me in like all areas. My biggest thing is as I'm overcoming obstacles, I'm teaching people and showing them how to do the same. So what was happening was I'm learning to shine, right? I, at that time, was 2 years sober. My acting coach, I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. My acting coach saw how bad it was getting. I was smoking a lot. She called someone, this guy called a cigarette whisperer. Rocky, what's up? Oh my God. I did not want to quit smoking, but in 3 days, what was happening was I was hitting the vape, like every night. I was falling asleep with it too, smoking 2 packs a day. I was like, and what it was I was having trauma that was trying to come up. But I was suppressing all the emotions with the nicotine too. So I called him up in 3 days with working with this guy. All of a sudden, no nicotine free. So I've been nicotine free now for 2019, 2021, 3.5 years now. Mm. Yeah. And what happened was in that first like week and a half, 2 weeks, I was going through massive panic attacks every day. I was waking up in cold sweats. My memories were coming back more. I stopped dreaming for a while, but what happened was my dreams came back, but they were more like there was nightmares. So during that time I was dating again, and I wound up dating this guy who, you know, he was cute from another country. I didn't know how to date. I was just used to throwing myself at someone and hoping for the best. It really took me teaching others to teach myself. I think that's one of the biggest things, and biggest misconceptions too. People go into areas where we've needed the most healing from. The difference is that as long as we're doing it, and you can tell the difference, I can feel your energy. It's like so calm and lovely. The difference is that as we're doing that work, and we should be, you can tell the difference with like a coach or therapist or, you know, self-imposed leader or a leader or whatever. You can tell the difference between someone who's like practicing what they preach versus someone who's like maybe just trying to make some money off of something. So I was doing that internal work, and for me there were some lessons that I needed to see, and I wound up on a date with this guy, and he did not understand the word no, even though he was from another country, and no means no there too. And you know, I went into a freeze response all night. Was like, he basically was taking advantage of me all night. I hate using the R word, but it's the R word. And just because also too, I get nervous about triggering anyone too if they're listening. But yeah, it was in sobriety going through that. I shut down. I couldn't even speak about it. I never even called it that. It took me like another year and a half to actually call it what it was. And because I woke up, like I fell asleep at his place too, and I woke up with him on top of me, inside of me, and me kind of like freezing. And it was just and then in my head though, here's what happens is for trauma, I go, it must be my fault. I must have done something wrong. Maybe I should have just gone through with it because I stopped us, and that's why he's not calling me anymore. Like it's like and mind you, I know firsthand I'm a strong, powerful woman. I am the things I've gone through that I'm able to show up for and help others, I'm well aware of that. But I was experiencing shame around the freeze response that happens sometimes. I don't get a choice when something's happening to me or to anyone. I don't really get a choice in which fight, flight, fawn, or freeze is going to come out. You know, and sometimes the freeze one comes out, and I can experience shame over that of like, why didn't I fight? And people can do that by accident too. Why didn't you? So I got to heal from that. I got to kind of like understand a little more. And as I was helping others.
Did you work with a coach yourself to heal with that?
Yeah, I've worked with therapists on that one. And then I also worked on it through like 12-step programs as well.
Got it.
I got to really dig in on like, why I was choosing people that, you know, kind of represented like cruelty or coldness or meanness, and what was I hate to say great, it's not great about it, but what threw me for a loop was I had a sponsee who was dating someone at the time, and this is where I got to see, and from my experience, I've gone through a lot of things in life that I have absolutely 1000% been able to like turn around and immediately help someone else through, if not, or like after I've healed from it, help someone else through. That's blown my mind because I'm like, oh, I know this one. Oh yeah, try this, this, and this. Call me tomorrow. You're going to be okay. And my sponsee, I remember 2 weeks later, called me, and she had had a similar situation, but with her boyfriend, where she was getting forced to do something and felt like it was her fault because she didn't want to, but she felt obligated. And I was like, oh, baby girl, this is rape. It doesn't matter that you're in a relationship. And I was like, okay, here's what you're going to do. You don't have a part in this. Because sometimes as addicts and alcoholics, when we talk, well, what's my part? Your part is you stayed. Get out. You know?
Yeah.
I would have never known to say that to her. I would have never known. I wouldn't have been able, I would have reacted in my own trauma. I had to go through what I needed to go through in order to turn around and go, oh, you got to, okay, do this. And yeah, and sure enough, he was, you know, and it happens to men too. I get to coach men, and I get to see that the same things happen to them too. And they can experience so much shame. A man can absolutely be raped.
But you know, and here's my thing, like, okay, so I always feel, and this isn't always, but like, I think sometimes that like, and this is maybe like either like an insecure part, or maybe it's something that's truth, or maybe it's just something that I need to look within. Like, I always feel as if that's what men want. I always feel as if that's what men want. Always. I always feel as if like men want that from a woman. They want that like I don't want to say fantasy, but I know that that is something that does exist,
Yeah.
but I always feel as if like that's what a man wants. Like I get the challenge part of it where they want to like the chase. I get it, but actually I think that there's like an even like playfulness.
Yes,
But
'cause we do too.
I just think that like I kind of like I enjoy that like when I'm into the guy
Yeah.
and I'm like, you know, like I want nothing more than like
Right.
but I always feel as if that some men kind of want that woman to be like so I don't want to say over the top. Like, what's the word that I'm trying to think of? Where
Over
it's
sexualized or like dominant, sexually dominant.
No, because dominant's different.
Yeah,
Because dominant
sexually-
has to be mutually like there's to be like a sexual energy between.
Yeah.
But I think more of like overly sexual.
Yeah. No, that's a lie. That's a lie that women got told. Yo, the biggest and best healing I've ever had in my life is coaching men and hearing the human in them.
And what is it? What is it?
There's so many men out there that like now don't get me wrong, but this also was with women too. There
Yeah.
are definitely men out there that are taught and programmed that like they just need to go out and hit it and quit it and like, yeah, let me get these bitches over here, let me get my Lambo. But yo, they're miserable. Most of them will hit their bottom and call me up too when I'm coaching them too.
Yeah, but
It's
even
a lie.
women who like they you know
Because we're taught that.
because yeah, but like people pay for sex.
Yeah. We're
And
now
that-
there's a difference. There are people for sure out there, especially depending on culture, where when we don't have shame over our sexuality, then absolutely you can do like a mutual exchange. If you're not experiencing shame and it's that's between, you know, whatever you're comfortable with. It's the difference is, are you using someone for validation or ego seeking behavior? Are you escaping your pain? Are you thinking that that's the only way to get someone, or are you thinking that's the only way to be someone is to do that? That's when we've got the limiting beliefs and the trauma, and we have cultural limiting beliefs. We have cultural trauma that each kind of country is overcoming too.
What is both a negative and a positive? What is a repetitive thing or a common similar thing that you hear from men that either what they want or something that they're looking for or something that they've seen and they've seen more than once and it's like, no, baby, no. Like I don't like I kind of like I always think about that stuff just because
Yeah,
I don't know.
the
Like,
projections that we do.
yeah, I don't know.
So here's what I hear the most of is the amount of pain and the amount of like, so men we're programmed to not express emotions. Most of them don't even have the vocabulary for it. They weren't taught. They were only allowed anger. That was it. In fact, they'll get beaten, berated, shamed from other men. They will get emasculated. Here's the other thing. Toxic women, we can emasculate too. I've been a toxic woman. Because what happens is we look at men and we go, well, they don't experience emotions. That's what I did. I was 2 years sober before I realized, oh, I think that men objectify me, so F them, I'm gonna do it back to them. And now I'm projecting my wounds because I chose bad partners onto people who didn't do anything to me. They don't deserve that. They didn't do that to me, but I'm projecting my wounds. And so for men, they didn't have the vocabulary to be like, hey, I have emotions and feelings too. You know, women can emotionally abuse, women can emotionally manipulate. I did grow up in a household where my mother was the alcoholic and I watched her do that. I also watched toxic men too, and I've seen that. But the number one thing that I see the most is that men are looking for also a safe place to actually like learn how to overcome their own stuff so that they can show up and have boundaries for women, for men, and to kind of be able to communicate and say, I'm not your past. You know, I'm not the men that hurt you. And in order for us to be a team, you have to drop your guard too and let me in. But a lot of times, like, there will be projections as well too. Like, we as women can kind of project our wounds onto our partners, and it takes us like healing as well. And looking at what helped me the most was seeing that we're both men and women thrown into the same kind of pond, and we were told that you were allowed to do different things and certain things. So that's where it's like there's a little bit of a difference, but the limiting beliefs, the trauma, like a lot of men, when I explain to them like oh, you're doing this because you're feeling just some emotions right now. You're looking for validation. They're like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. Okay, how do I stop that?
Yeah,
how do I do this?
100%.
It's amazing.
Oh my God, I've done that like 1,001 times. But you know, it's funny, Natalie. I have the book. No, I have a couple of them. Men are from Mars. Women are from Mars. Wait, men are from Mars. Women are from Venus.
Yeah.
I read that every once in a while. I have. I've read Why Men Date Bitches. I have Why Men Marry Bitches.
Oh God.
And I read it every once in a while just because like I try to apply it to somebody.
Yeah.
And like I try to apply it to somebody that I love very much. But I also like think about those things.
Yeah.
I mean like I would be lying if I said that I didn't want to be the wife of somebody I adore.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
Like
Same.
I'm not one of those women to be like, yeah, well, no, I never, ever, you know? So it's like, I think, and a lot of women think about this. Two things I want to hear your thing is both from men and women. It's like, it's not more of a woman's thing. It's not more of a man's thing. It's more of like how does somebody build trust?
Oh yeah.
And how do you build trust even if you're in a relationship and you want to bring that trust back? And those are common things that always come up.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, so some of those books I really like, there's a lot of good information in them, and there's some men's books out there too that there's good information in them. However, I'm not the biggest fan of doing anything that subscribes to like men are different than women. We might communicate slightly differently. We might be, different things, but to me, I think it perpetuates the limiting belief that we can't communicate because we have a different gender, and that's going to create more kind of a confirmation bias. We might wind up like actually not listening to our partner because we're going, oh, well, they can't hear me anyway. They're not going to get it. You're just not going to get it. And we're now stonewalling or shutting down our partner or dismissing our partner, instead of like, the main thing that I would say is like, you can learn how to communicate, because even between women, we can wind up like not hearing each other that well. Creating trust would be it takes time. Individually, learning to drop your guard and have boundaries. Like, I know that if I'm over giving and I've got nothing to give, I might be a little more irritated. So I need to make sure that I'm filling up my cup so that way I can pour into the relationship. When there's a disagreement, there's boundaries. Okay, for disagreements, our boundaries are we do not hit below the belt. None of that. When we have a disagreement, if I'm heated or you're heated, we pause first, take a 10-minute break or an hour break, go journal, go walk. And I'm not always the best at this. You know what I mean? Like, I've made mistakes for sure too, but we go, okay, we're going to pause on this because I'm feeling some type of way. And when I'm triggered, I'm not going to see you clearly. I'm going to see my past. Same, and vice versa. So we have to remember, come together and go, you and I are a team. We're a team. Okay, I'm going to work out what's coming up for me because I'm triggered, which means something in me is triggering my past. So let me work that out first and calm my heart rate down. That way I'm not in a fight or flight response when we are talking. That way we can hear each other. I think that's the reason why there's such a big thing about men and women can't hear each other, or relationships can't hear each other. I think it's just because whenever you're fighting with someone or you're trying to like fight internally, we go into an amygdala thinking. We go into fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. First thing that goes is hearing. I won't be able to hear you. My body has to feel safe first. So first it's let me ground myself and regulate myself first. Let me do that. Let me drop my guard, lower my heart rate, find out what's coming up. Oh, okay, you said this thing and I felt like you dismissed me. That reminds me of my mom. My mom used to do that to me as a kid. Okay, I see what's going on here. I got triggered because I was bringing up this weekend and I felt like you were telling me that you didn't want to do something this weekend. Got it. Okay, you're journaling that because your journal helps you access your subconscious. So you're accessing the filing cabinet of why you got triggered, because it's really not about them. They pulled something out of a childhood wound. Oh, I get to heal something with my partner. Partnerships, relationships are mirrors. So when you guys are together, you're going to mirror each other and trigger each other. It's kind of part of it because it's part of how you're going to evolve even further together. So when you remember that, like, hey, you and I, we're a team. We're going to do this together. All right, let me see what's going on here that we get to show up for. When you change your perspective on it of like, ooh, I'm getting triggered. Ooh, okay, let me see what this is. Maybe it's a mother wound or a father wound. Ooh, dig in. Ooh, I knew that one. Okay. Got it. All right, babe.
I love your fiery, like eccentric, fiery. Like, do you like? It's so funny. I've tons of people that come on this, but I see like your passion.
Yeah.
I see your passion in something, but I'm also like, oh, this is why she probably does these roles. But I think that one of the things that I'm really like just getting from the passion of it is like, sometimes people have that passion in relationships, and sometimes they want to bring that passion back. Mm-hmm. And it does take a lot of like healing work and inner work. And I can like probably hear you for hours on this stuff, or just even pick your brain on this stuff. But like, do you believe that people can bring that passion back, and how do they bring that passion back? And I can only speak from being a woman, and it's like, I would rather be, I'm comfortable in my skin. Mm-hmm. I find very positive qualities in myself, but being overly sexualized based off of what somebody else is doing can be confusing, because we only want to show up as ourselves in our best way, and that can get confusing. So what are some of the things that you've come across or you've shared with others about bringing passion back or creating that again?
Oh yeah. I think, because I'm actually working on some of the similar stuff. I still have stuff that I'm working on with like showing up authentically as me, and like a woman in her 30s who's like, you know what I mean? Like, I do certain acting roles, and like I can want to like, have photos out, but like I don't like some of the reactions that I get, but I can't control that. So because then I don't feel safe. So a big part of it is actually getting to teach people too how to appropriately like comment on Instagram or in social media, and how to appropriately like interact with people. It helps me at least to like feel like I'm getting to do something for us, for women, and for men too. Men can I know a lot of men that have gotten objectified and like don't even have the words to be like, please don't do that. So it works both ways. Passion, I love this. Absolutely, 1,000%. The number one thing would be, well, actually, there's two things. Number one is interdependence. The more that you're experiencing, if you want passion in a relationship is like a battery pack. We pour into it so that way we're not draining or pulling from it, because it might be on empty. So if we want to experience something in the relationship, then we want to cultivate that and pull that into our body outside of it. So in what areas is someone not experiencing passion in their career, in their life? Take a dance class. You can either do it solo or together. Either way, it's going to help the relationship. But you want to pour into yourself and experience that. That way you're not looking for your partner to meet your need. You want to meet that core need first. That way when you show up and share, hey, I'm experiencing this, I could use us having more passion. It's not like, it's your job and your responsibility because I'm, decrepit in here. It's, hey, again, teamwork. I'm going to try some salsa classes. You want to try with me? Let's go. Number two is you should still be dating your partner once a week date night. Even if you guys are traveling together or whatever, once a week date night where it's like, baby, you're mine Friday night, every night. And if we have to do, you got to something on Friday where, you have to be off with the girls, fine. Then Saturday, your ass is mine. And sexuality doesn't always have to be lingerie at all. Sexuality is a vibe. Mm-hmm. You can, that's something that I had to internalize, because I thought that I had to like wear short shorts and like have everything out.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But
no,
I'm
not
going
at
to have
all.
to tell you about this one book I have. It's called The Alchemy of Sexual Energy.
Ooh.
And like people have been using the chi. I'm like so into energy.
Same.
But like there's a way that you can channel chi.
Yes.
And because like Abraham Hicks, she talks about this, like sexual energy to create any type of like business opportunity. Yes. And it's not being like, it's not, doing something that's overly sexualized to get something.
That's your power chakra.
Like a sex sells. But that's a whole other topic, but just with this in particular, like the alchemy of sexual energy. And I literally, Natalie, I can like ramble on.
I love it.
For hours. I may even have to like bring you on again.
Yeah, this is great.
I may have to bring you on again just so I can like either have like a guy here or someone to bounce off of. That would be so much fun.
Really fun.
But before my guests leave me, I ask them 3 questions.
Okay.
What is a non-negotiable in your morning routine that grounds you for the day?
Oh, coffee.
Oh, nice.
Wait, hold on. No, that actually grounds me for the day. My morning, I think I've heard someone else on your podcast mention this too. I'm gonna piggyback off that. My morning routine is something that I'm still working on, because for me, I've been programmed to like wake up and immediately go into work, and it can create panic in me.
I was like, wow, which episode was that?
I know, right? I don't, whichever one you post that one on. So, I'm still working on that, because one of the biggest things for me that I coach and I teach and give back to is like peace and ease, and starting your morning off in a certain mindset, and you can restart it at any time. So for me, it's not always going to be first thing in the morning, because I'm not perfect. I allow myself to kind of explore. So one of the things for me is I explore and I allow myself to find that peace and ease each morning. And it might not be first thing in the morning, because I might have forgotten and I might have jumped straight into coaching, and then I'll feel a little frazzled. So what I'll do is like, it's making the bed. I'll put on a meditation, and what I'll do is I'll check in with my heart rate. And I just kind of see, where am I at? Where's my heart rate? And what do I need? And how do I meet that need? And that is it. I keep it as simple as possible, and I get to explore how that looks and what that looks like.
Yeah. And now you'll drink ice cold water.
Oh yeah. And ice cold water is so good for you.
It's so good. So good.
I'm like double
It's so good.
over
Ice
here.
cold water is so good for your skin, but there's always ice in my water, because it's hydrating and it gives you that like awake look all the time. But I like ice roll, and I do like a whole bunch of stuff in the morning. Can you leave the listeners with one suggestion or piece of advice that they can apply to their daily routine, their business, and or relationship?
Yeah, it all applies, by the way, too. It's why I get so excited about the relationship stuff, because when you figure out your mirrors with your partner, you immediately unblock and unlock in your career too. I geek out on that. Yeah, I fucking love it. I just want more people to just like learn this stuff. More good people having access to great information. Number one thing is, let me say it in a way that I maybe haven't said before. Let's see if I can connect and see if you got something. You will attract more into your life of what you already have feeling inside of you. So it's one of those things where you can say it like, we attract what we vibrate at. We teach other people how to treat us. We accidentally treat the ones that we love the way that we treat ourselves. Even if you don't realize it, if you're dismissive, avoidant of your stuff, you might accidentally do that to your loved ones. That helps any of my people pleasers out there when they're like, well, I don't care about me. It's like, yeah, but do you care about the people around you? Because you're going to accidentally go into old programming. So if you want love in your life, if you want success in your life, if you want to feel, write down all the things that you want to feel in your life. If success or career or love or relationship, if that's going to feel like, peace and respect, if that's going to feel like self-love, if that's going to feel like a lightness and a joy and a laughter, in what ways, and each day you can write this down, in what ways are you already experiencing that in your life today? And if you're not, how can you? Because the more that you can like cultivate that feeling in your body, and this is huge for relationships, how I feel about myself, the level of self-love and the level of depth that I've met with myself, that's what I'm going to allow in. And when good comes in, I'll recognize it. Game, recognize game. So if I'm loving on myself and self-care, nurturing, reparenting, reprogramming, if I'm doing like the little things like meeting my basic needs, taking care of myself, respecting myself, whatever that looks like, however that looks like with other people, it doesn't matter. It's your description. That is what you're going to allow in. And when you meet it, you won't have to worry, because you'll know, your body will recognize it. And the more that you give yourself that good stuff and you stay away from treating yourself like crap, like no more negative self-talk, no more disrespecting yourself. Like it's a boundary now. You wouldn't do it to others. It doesn't work. It didn't work when you were a kid. Don't do it now. The more that you move away from that, when you're around anyone who does that, that'll be what makes you repel. So you'll move more towards good because you're giving yourself good, and you'll move away from bad because you're no longer allowing that in your life. It's as simple as I can put it.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, just because it jumped in my brain.
Yes.
The simplest thing I think that you could start with is eating something healthy.
Yes.
Because like if you become foggy, irritable, like these are what food sometimes can do to your body. Yep. I can do a whole episode on this, but just hearing what you were saying, I'm like, oh my God, like when I eat something that's energizing, hydrating, it feels good on my body, I'm not lethargic. I'm not angry. I'm not tired. I'm not that I know I can do the next thing that I'm supposed to do. And I love your passion. And I'm just going to say you have so much passion. I absolutely love it. What are 3 qualities peers of yours would say about you? Minus passion.
Passionate is definitely one of them. I'm definitely passionate. My peers would say, what's the, I don't want to claim this one, but I can't think of another word for it, but like wise.
Yeah.
I've seen that one happen a lot because I'm just kind of like giving back in that way where the things that I've gone through, I'm getting to give back and help others. And then the third one is probably ridiculous or hilarious. I mean, ridiculous in a positive, beautiful way, but like more of like the funny, I get to use humor and like coaching sessions and too. And even when I'm doing a drama, usually doing a dark comedy, I'm usually doing like something where even if it's in a drama, like there's usually a smart aleck remark that I'm making as my character. Like some things like, don't go down that scary alleyway. Maybe that's not a good idea. Like that's my kind of role. So there's so much. I'm what's called a shadow worker, although it's kind of, was anyone out there who hates the woo-woo thing. I get it. I'm from the Northeast. I used to be against this stuff because I'm like, this is stupid. It's woo-woo stuff. Oh my God, it works. It works. But I would be considered like a shadow worker, which is very Carl Jung. And I'm very much so like, I'm comfortable in dark places because I light it up. So that more of a light.
You can tell you're an entertainer.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my God, I love it. I'm like, I need to up my entertainment. Natalie, thank you so much for being here.
This is amazing.
Plug yourself. Where can people find you?
Mostly I'm on Instagram because I figured that one out a little bit better, but I play with TikTok too. It's at Natalie Stavola on all of the platforms. My coaching on YouTube, or even I think it's Natalie Stavola Coach. I have an actor one on there too. I think it's Natalie Stavola Film, but Natalie Stavola Coach. And my website is lovecoach247.com. You can find out more information about my background, what I do. I do I'll do some Q&As online too on Instagram. So you can kind of find me on there. I play around on that a lot. It's fun.
Thanks guys for being here. You can follow me at Jessica J. Fury. You can follow the podcast at Dumb Girl Podcast. And thank you so much for being here. I'll talk to you guys soon.